Southernplayalisticadillacmuzik. Outkast.
Man.
17 songs.
Yes, sir.
1 hour and 4 minutes.
Yep.
We bring it to the table. I chose this one.
Yep.
But I chose it for a very specific reason.
What was your specific reason?
Well, one is I wanted to do something from the 90s because, as I think I've told you before, and as I think it's been very clear, I've been very 90s hip hop damn near throughout 2022.
Yep.
For whatever reason, I don't know. Maybe it's a midlife crisis. Who knows? Maybe I'm going through an identity crisis like Drake.
Yeah, that nigga has waves in his hair now, by the way.
Yeah, Jerry Curls.
Yeah,
Jerry Curls.
Yeah, it's not a segment.
But I wanted to do that. But also, you had never listened to this album before, right?
I had not.
I had that feeling, and I was having this conversation with my brother actually. Like, he was asking me what the next album was going to be that we reviewed, and I told him this, and he asked why. And one of the reasons is not to like out you on this at all, and not to like at you on this in any shape or form. But whenever we mention sort of Outkast and their music, you always go to Speaker Box Love Below. And the song that you always go to is Roses.
Oh yeah, that's my shit.
You love that song, and that's no worries about it. But for me, I'm always like in my head, that can't be your go-to Outkast song if you've heard all of their music. And so I had a feeling that you may not have listened to this album before, and obviously you confirmed that when I asked you last week. So I was like, okay, this is the perfect one. And another reason I wanted to go to this album, and this was again indicative of conversation I had with my brother, is actually my brother asked me randomly when we we're driving up, where do I place Rick Ross all time, right? And Rick Ross is always hard for me to place, because personally I have him higher than I would if I was being objective, right? And I said to him like this in the car as we were driving, I was like, it's hard for me to place Rick Ross objectively, because like subjectively Rick Ross is really high for me, but I can't. What is it that I'm gonna say to put Rick Ross ahead of Big Boy? Right. And we were having a conversation, and I was like, Big Boy is so underrated in modern day, because again, someone like yourself, when you think of Big Boy, the first song that I'm guessing comes to your head is Shutterbug.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, again, no qualms with that. I love that song. But like, that can't be people's knowledge of Big Boy. When Big Boy has the shit that he was doing at 18 years old in 94. Yeah. And so I really wanted us to come to this album. And obviously I've listened to this album for years. So and I know what my opinion was, but listening to it over the past 2 weeks as we prepare for this, allowed me to see it in a different light, allowed me to really hone in and focus in to bring it, this conversation. But as someone who came to this album fresh, what were the initial things that you picked out of it that you want to share?
I had it was a really, really interesting time with this album, because obviously since we started doing these reviews, we have those certain things that we want to specifically look out for so that we can talk about when we get to these reviews. And one of the things, and I might be jumping the gun a little bit here, but I think it's important to what my journey was with this album, was I was looking for like the theme of this album. And obviously, as you just said, I came into this album sort of, I knew it was one of their earlier albums, but that's really all I knew about this album. I hadn't done any research yet. I just wanted to listen to the album. And I was like, I was trying to get this theme for what this album was. And I was like, I can't really, I'm struggling to pick up like a consistent theme throughout it. But the one thing that I kept on getting personally was like, it just feels like it would have been a massive culture change. Like, that's the one thing that I kept on getting, was it feels like they were trying to change the culture. It feels like they were trying to change the culture. But at the same time, I was like, well, Raheem, how can you say that? Bearing in mind, one, you weren't even born when this album came out. You don't know what the culture was. Two, you don't know what the culture was in the South. And three, like, you don't know what was happening before this. So like, you don't know if they were changing the culture, they were following the culture, what was going on around that time. So that sparked me to actually eventually just be like, you know what, where was this in their discography? Like, what was this, their second album, their third album, their fourth album? Where was it? When I found out it was their first, like their debut into the music industry, I was like, Right. Makes way more sense now as to why I was thinking it felt like they were trying to change the culture, because that's what they'll come to do. They'll come to change essentially how music was listened to, how it was approached, how people viewed it in the South at that time, where it was widely dominated by West Coast, East Coast. And it was like, yeah, right, I get that now. It makes this whole album sound different, knowing that it's these two teenagers coming on essentially in 1994, trying to change the perception of music in America. Not even just in America. They want to change how everyone in America thinks about music that comes out of places that aren't New York or LA. And that alone made this album way more enjoyable. I'd not say I wasn't enjoying it before, but it made it like, wow, okay, that's another layer to this album that I wasn't experiencing before. Now, when we get into it, I think it's I love the fact that you chose this album, because it made me have to look at myself and ask myself certain questions about this album and about how I digest music. Because although I enjoyed it, there were certain, how can I put it? It was a weird time to listen to this album, especially with the glasses on of, okay, we're going to review it. But at the same time, you know, obviously we just had an 100% stamped album that came out very recently that for me is still heavy in rotation. So I was pretty much consistently flipping between that and this album that we had to review. So it was like, partially I was listening to this album because we were reviewing it. A lot of time I would play it because I enjoyed the album, but I had to ask myself, okay, am I enjoying this? Am I enjoying the songs I'm enjoying because I really enjoy them, or am I enjoying them because I have to review them and I'm listening to them deeper? One. Two, the songs that I'm not enjoying, is it something that I'm not necessarily, let me not even say not enjoying, because I don't think I enjoyed this album. I enjoyed this album. Spoiler alert for everyone. This is a good album. Yeah, I'm not gonna tell you what my rating is, but overall, this is a really good project. I'm listening to the album, and then every now and then I'm like, I want to listen to 2000, or I want to listen to this project, or I want to listen to P3, this, whatever. And I'm asking myself now, would this be different if I was listening to it, one, in the 90s, and two, would it be different if I was listening to it with just in a different time this year where maybe there was less going on musically? And now it was a very interesting conversation I had to have with myself, just with how I digest the music and how other factors affect how I digest new music to me, especially when it's a throwback, but it's new to me, which was interesting. But overall, this album, I see why you say now, why, like, yeah, Roses, like, you always, every time I said Roses or I don't know, any of the Outkast songs I would go to, even though Roses was always my go-to, because that song is like my childhood, damn near. Like, when I think of
I love
Outkast,
that. That's a fucking phenomenal song. Like,
fam, like, there's literally, when I think of Outkast, it takes me back. My first thought every time I say the word Outkast is me, child, MTV Base, music video for Sorry Miss Jackson, music video for Hey Ya, and music video for Roses. That's just, those are the things that immediately come to mind. And then it's after that, it's wait, deeper than that. Let's go to Stank on Your Gasoline is Cold, this. But the two albums I listened to, Love Below and Stank on You, those were my two Outkast experiences. This album here is very different to those albums, in my opinion. Very, very different. You can tell that there's a rawness to this. There's a rookie aspect to this that I think makes this album as impressive as it is. And as I said before, gives it that feeling of we're trying to change the culture that I don't think you can get if they come on it with the same polish that they have on Speaker Box Love Below, if they come on it with the same polish they have on Stan Konya. So it was a really good experience. It was a good experience.
You said a lot there, which is all really interesting. I want to pick up on a lot of different pieces of it, if I can. I like wholeheartedly agree with your central takeaway that one of the themes of this album was like changing the culture of American music and American rap. The first intro song is Peaches, where it's essentially an interlude of them flying into Atlanta. If you don't know, Atlanta is the peach state.
Yeah.
That's why Justin Bieber, I get my peaches out in Georgia.
Yeah.
Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta is the peach state. Georgia is the peach state. Atlanta is the capital of Georgia.
The only reason I know that is because of Real Housewives of Atlanta, where they're all holding peaches.
Come on now, talk about it.
Come on, man.
Come on now. Come on, Candy. Legs and hips and yeah. So that being intro, them talking about to the left, you'll see Decatur, College Park, and all these different places where, like, if you're not from Atlanta and you're not from Georgia, you don't know these places, especially in the 90s. So, like, you ain't got Google Maps, so you don't know these places, you haven't heard of these places, and you don't have like any artist there to contextualize, oh, this is here, this is here. You don't know about all these different wards, but they're saying that to let you know that's where it is. Another interlude is called Welcome to Atlanta.
Yep.
On top of that, the album is titled Southernplayalisticadillacmuzik.
No spaces.
No spaces, all squashed together. The music is spelled with a Z and not an S.
Yep.
Why? Because that's how you speak in the South. That's how it comes out of their mouth when they say it. Like, it's Southernplayalisticadillacmuzik. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like that. And they have all of that slang to it, the aesthetic to it that makes you feel like you're in the deep South when you listen to it. On top of that, the cultural points that they pick at, like, to take you down to the South, like Players Ball. Do you know what Players Ball is?
I don't know what it is in, like, outside of.
Also, on top of this, you gotta watch Hip Hop Evolution. I know you still haven't, so you gotta watch Hip Hop Evolution. It will, especially the episode on this album. But essentially, the Players Ball, and now that I'll tell you this, go back and listen to Players Ball.
Okay.
But Players Ball is an event that would happen every December 25th, Christmas Day, where all the players and the pimps will come together and essentially have a party. It was essentially no dope on Sundays type day. No one would sell, no one would pimp, no one would do anything. They come together with their fur coats, their minks, their Cadillacs, and it would be a play. They would have a ball. That's why if you go back and listen, you'll hear a line that I think it is Big Boy that says, "Ain't no chimneys in the ghetto, so I won't be putting my stockings on a chimney."
Right.
And if you go back, I mean, you won't go back to my TL to December 25th, but this year on December 25th, you will see, in and around the time where Christmas songs are going crazy, you will see me tweet, because I tweet it damn near every year, the Players Ball is the greatest Christmas song of all time, because it's a Christmas song. It's about an event that happens every day on Christmas in Atlanta, Georgia at the time, and they're talking about it. So they're taking you to what actually happens. Do you need to do it?
Huh? Like 4 or 5.
Okay. I'll see you later then.
Okay.
When you come back tomorrow.
Okay. All right, bye. Sorry about that.
All right. Yeah, so they're intentionally setting the scene of what happens in their community on Christmas Day. It's a players' ball where the players come together. And so they're taking you into all these cultural things that happen in Atlanta, Georgia, which you just won't know about if you're not from there. Yeah. And that's the part of the South has something to say. On top of that, the production of it is so different to anything that was happening in hip hop in the early 90s, right? If we look at what was happening in hip hop in the early 90s, Chronic is 92.
Yeah.
Too Short You would come out the next year in 95. Like, Too Short You would come out the next year in 95. We are very much in the throes of just East and West, Dre and Diddy, as I tried to eloquent like at the start of this segment. And so the aesthetic that they were coming with in terms of the sound and the production was so far apart from anything that the game was hearing at the time.
Yeah.
Because it just wasn't existing and no one was paying attention to the South other than niggas in the South. The South wasn't getting any attention nationally. And then on top of that, just to add another point to what you were saying, this album is a coming of age album in the sense that these are two 18-year-olds really deep in their place in the world and like trying to forge that out in different ways. And you can tell it's two 18-year-olds from like one of my favorite juxtapositions about this album on the song Get Out, Get Out.
Yeah.
Or Get Out, Get Out. They say you gotta get out and get something. You can't spend all your days getting high. And if you watch Hip Hop Evolution, you'll see that all these niggas did in the studio was get high. You know what I mean? So that contrast of being like an 18-year-old spreading one message where you're living a completely different life is just perfect. And all those different little things, which I think is just indicative of them. And I think I really appreciate like your honesty in what you were saying in terms of like and again, like it was in no means to cast any judgment on you. I got that impression that like your Outkast experience is your childhood, and rightfully so. Hey, I was one of the biggest, greatest songs of all time. Roses was a smash hit. And so Miss Jackson went crazy, right? But like what you will miss if you don't know Southern Playalistic, AT Aliens, Aquamini, Stankonia came out in 2000.
Yeah.
And really, before that moment, there was no way in hell you could make the argument that Andre was better than Big Boy. It wasn't possible. The game didn't see it. Andre was looked at as this weirdo, especially, obviously, he's eccentric, he's flamboyant, he's very much confident in his own skin and sexuality, as you could tell if you've ever seen a picture of him from the late 90s. Like, nigga was dating Erykah Badu, what do you expect? You know what I'm saying? And so, like, it literally wasn't until Stankonia where, like, the tide changed to Three Stacks being viewed in this light so far above Big Boy. You know what I mean? Like if I said to you now, oh man, I got Andre 3000, my top 5 rappers all the time.
Yeah.
You probably don't bat an eye. No one really bats an eye if you say that, right? If I said Big Boy's in there, but Andre isn't, you'd be like, wait, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Right? But those early years of Outkast, you couldn't, there was no way people saw Andre as this, at least not far ahead of Big Boy as he potentially is viewed now in the modern day. And I felt like we had to get that perspective of who Big Boy is in this rap game.
Yeah.
Before the Shutterbug, before the Roses, before the Love Below, who he really is in his time there. I appreciate everything you said there, because I think it like really, it was fully in line with what I thought was going to be the takeaways, your takeaways anyway, from this being your first time listening to it. So you've got the themes. Let's talk about a bit more about the production. As I've sort of already said, it's an album that sounds completely different to anything that was really being produced at the time. But what were your thoughts on it from a production standpoint?
It was like, in areas I loved it. In areas it was like I didn't necessarily get it, but I got it. And that makes no sense, but it's the only way I can really explain it. They were like, say like, for instance, Southernplayalisticadillacmuzik, which by the way, I really do miss the days where the best song on the album was the one that was named after the album. But Southernplayalisticadillacmuzik, like the production, I think about the production on that, and it's like, it's excellent. It's excellent. Is amazing. Like it's kind of what I expected from. It's not even what I expected from our Outkast album, in fact, because what I really expected is Ain't No Thing. Ain't No Thing is exactly what I expect from an Outkast album. But I had to remind myself, this is rookie Outkast.
Sorry.
Mhm.
Ain't no thing.
Ain't no thing. Sorry.
It's all right.
Ain't no
It's
thing.
not you. It's for the audience. They
No,
want
100%. Yeah, because obviously they have to search for the song. Yeah, no, fair.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I expect from the sound wise, from everything.
Why? If you don't mind me asking.
Because of what I know from Outkast at the later stages,
Mhm.
I expect somewhat more of like these not abstract beats, but like more synths, more bass. I don't know how to describe it. It's like it's
No,
an
more
Outkast
bass.
sound.
More bass makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It just it's
There's a southern bounce.
Exactly. Whereas Southern Playalistic Cadillac music
Come on now.
is more so my personal, like, this is my favorite type of like beat. This is the type of beat I hear and I get excited. Like, whoa, you're telling me you're gonna rap on this type of beat? Whoa, okay, I'm excited. What's this gonna sound like? And it sounds excellent. But then you have songs like Players Ball, right? Players Ball is an excellent song. I love Players Ball. Is this necessarily the type of beat that I would expect to love? No. But the song works. I like the song. I really like the song. And this is the type of thing that makes me question, man, how would I enjoy the song if I was in the 90s? If I was in that era where it was like, I haven't had anything like this before, ever. It's like, I don't know how to put it. It's like, it's just, I think, not that I've, me being in 2022 and listening to this for the first time, and this being their debut, I don't know how to explain it. It's like, how can I put this? I'm trying to think of a concise way to put this. It is at the point where it's not what I would expect and is not the typical sound that I have come to expect from them. And it's not a typical sound that I hear and get excited about. Similar to how I just said, some playlistic Cadillac music, I hear that beat, I get excited immediately. There's certain beats on this album that I hear and I don't get excited, and I think, this might be a skippable song. And then I listen to it out, and it's like, oh, they made this work.
Mhm.
They made this work, and it makes so much sense in the context of this album and in the context of where they were. Where it's like, yo, I don't think anyone else could have done this on this beat. And I don't think in any other album that this beat was on, that a rapper had to come and do something with it, I think it would have been a song that I skip. But it makes sense for what they were doing. They've made it work. I don't know if anyone else could have made it work. And because they've made it work, it is no longer a bad beat. It's actually just excellent beat selection from them because they knew they could do something with it, if that makes sense. But if I was then saying, okay, I'm gonna just take the instrumentals and listen to them, I don't know if I'm listening to all of these beats, just instrumentals.
Yeah, I think what I'm picking up from you, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that it's almost like it's hard for you to reconcile that the Outkast made this.
Yes. Yeah. Because I'm going backwards. I'm literally going backwards. It's like, because in some ways, right, as I just said, like, there's a polish to Speak About Love Below, there's a polish to Stank On You. And it's like, analogy wise, I know you say I use basketball analogies all the time. I'm gonna use it. It's as if like, it's like I'm watching, say, like a James Harden, right? I've watched James Harden in Houston and I've watched James Harden in his first couple of years in Brooklyn, where he's still good. He's still really good, but he isn't that same guy that was averaging 30 and everyone was like, is he just going to keep on having 30 points a game every single game now? And we didn't know when he was going to stop. Whereas in Brooklyn, it was just like, oh, he's having very good games, but he's not like having these elite games where it's like, whoa, hold on. There's an end to this like 30-point streak. And like in some ways, it's like, oh, you're watching a decline, but I have to mentally tell myself no, because I'm doing this in reverse. Realistically, I should be thinking about watching this as like I'm watching a rookie get up to the point where he's averaging 30 points. But I've done this backwards and I'm watching it in the opposite order, if that makes sense. It's just a weird experience. It's a weird, I've done it before, but like when I usually do it, it's like, for instance, I listened to Good Kid, Mad City, and then went back and listened to Section 80. And it's like, there's a clear improvement, but I never did Mr. Morale, Big Steppers, then Damn, then To Pimp a Butterfly, then Good Kid, Mad City, then Section 80, and like had to get my brain around that. It was just one album back. I've never gone this many albums back in like kind of a single jump.
So, you're not even going albums back. You're going like generations. Exactly. You know what I mean? Like I said, like if your understanding of like Outkast is predominantly Hey Roses, Speaker Box Like Below, hearing Funky Ride, True That, Crumbling Herb, like it's night and day. It's night and day. You know what I mean? Like even like you just said on the song that like have you like deep the lyrics of Southernplayalistic, the song? Elite. Like Andre is rapping 3 Stacks. Is rapping about like, yo, you run up on me, I will shoot you.
Fam.
Like he literally said, my heat is in the trunk alone with that quad knock. Now my heart don't pump no Kool-Aid. Jump and you'll get 2 sprayed. Who raised your block, the one and only Outkast? Many a nigga falling fast and I continue blasted swiftly. They ain't gonna get me. I got something for it. He's talking about, yo, if you run up on me, you will get caught. Like I'll pack that thing too now. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't reconcile in your head with like, I'm sorry, Miss Jackson, I am for real. I never meant to make your daughter cry. I apologize. But he's apologizing to Erykah Badu's mother. Like that doesn't reconcile with Caroline. She's the reason for the word bitch.
Yeah.
It doesn't. Like that's from a production standpoint, 100%, and also from a lyric standpoint, because it's like, wait, who is this human? Like these are 2 completely different people. But the reality is that like they are night and day, because you're seeing them at 2 completely different phases of their career. Like if the first time you hear Jay-Z is I apologize, often womanized, took from our child to be born to see through a woman's eyes, if that's the first time you hear him, you will never understand the Jay-Z that said I fucking love them, feed them, but I don't fucking need them, take them out of the hood again, live them good, but I don't fucking feed them. Like you'll never understand that.
And I don't think it's a case of you'll never understand. I think it's just a case of
it'll just be so difficult for you to reconcile that. No, I feel you. I feel you. So that's the production side, or rather the lyrics side, the rapping side. Because I've always said, and I've maintained it, and I'll say it now before you even go in. The thing that's so special about Outkast, the 2 of them, and this album, is that they were literally 18, and they were the best rappers in the game. Like they came out, new album, 18, and they were just rapping as if they were the best rappers in the game. Like they were rapping as if like they had been doing this for 10 years in the game. And they somehow like were so seasoned, so raw, so comfortable on so many different beats, which is just a skill that takes years to perfect. But they had it on debut. So that's my take on it. What's your take on it?
I think is the one thing that like when you said like, oh, okay, listen to Southernplayalistic Cadillac Music, I was comfortable in the fact that, listen, even though I don't really know what to expect from this album, at the end of the day, it's Outkast. And Outkast have always given me high tier rap in terms of they're going to have the right cadences on every song. Every song going to flow well. And I've always just enjoyed the way Andre 3000 raps, the way Big Boy raps. Like, their approach to it has always been sonically extremely pleasing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's something that's consistent through this album as well, which is, again, why I think this album was probably received as well as it was, and why it ended up sparking a legendary career for both of them in music. It sounds excellent. you know, we are going through it, the rap ability from both of them is excellent. Like, even though, as you said, like Big Boy probably has an argument to be the better rapper on a lot of these songs. Andre 3000 sounds stellar, and it's like you can see it's the Andre 3000 that ended up being. You can see Big Boy was here rapping, like it's excellent. Like the ability was just there. It seems like it damn near feels like it's innate, because even growth wise, I don't know if I can necessarily say as rappers they got better. Like it feels like they were just excellent from day one. And like they just started rapping about different things. I don't know if it's necessarily better. It's just good throughout. And maybe the way that they approach music got better. But rapping wise, it's excellent.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like I Players Ball is one that I always go to, because like it wasn't until watching the Hip Hop Evolution episode that I realized the Players Ball was about what I mentioned it to be about, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I went back and listened to it, and like the way they paint the picture, right? So Andre starts off in first verse, and he's like, "It's beginning to look a lot like what? Follow me at every step." And if you step back, what did he just say? It's beginning to look a lot like, what's the famous song? It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Everywhere you go. So he's already painted the picture of where we are, like in the time. Like, it's Christmas. Follow about every set, 10 minutes like how I crap about to go. And he's like, keeps going then through his verse. He's like, so I begin to piece my two and two together. I've got no snowy weather. It doesn't snow in Atlanta over Christmas. But he's told you like it's there. And he's like, I subtract, so shut up that nonsense about some silent night. Silent Night's another Christmas song. And so once you deep it, you're like, yo, they were painting the picture the whole way through. And then I'm sat there thinking, how did I not get this? Like, what are you talking about? And then when I was talking about Big Boy coming in, Big Boy starts his verse, hallelujah, hallelujah. Christmas song again. Do you know what I mean? Ain't no chimneys in the ghetto, so I won't be putting my stockings on my chimney, which is just, to me, is just insane. Like, again, I reckon so. I've never had a chimney in my life. I've never had a stocking stuffer in my life. Like when people are like, "Oh, what did you get as a gift? And what do you put in your stocking?" I go, "What? What? I got Linked Africa as a gift, and I was happy." And now you're talking about what did I get in my stocking?
Yeah, remember when Links was a good gift?
Bam, that was a perfect Links and some socks.
I used to go to school proud of my Links chocolate.
Proud of my Links Africa. Are you mad?
Yo, I was like, yo, let me just spray up real quick. Yeah,
bro, ready my bag to go. But like the manner in which they were able to paint that picture. But now when I go back with the knowledge of what that song's about, it's like it was so fucking obvious. And how did I not get that? But then what they do on other songs as well, like Crumbling Herb, which I absolutely love as a vibe and as an aesthetic. Let Me Take You on a Funky Ride. Just groove. Claiming True. Call of the Wild with Goody Mob. Shout out Goody Mob. Do you know who's in Goody Mob?
No.
CeeLo Green.
That's crazy. Wow.
That's where CeeLo gets his start. CeeLo was part of the production on this, alongside Organized Noise.
Hootie
Hoo. Again, it's just so Southern. It's just so Southern. And as someone who is like a history geek, but also like was a big drug, like I love albums that transport you to where they were crafted. I love it. It's one of the reasons I love early YG. It's one of the reasons Ty Dolla $ign LA is one of my favorite songs, because every time I hear it, I'm transported to as if I'm driving down the 5 freeway in LA. And this album has the exact same aesthetic.
Do you know what it is that they're really good at? That I was struggling to put into words. I don't know why I was struggling to put into words. They are really, really good at painting pictures with their songs. Like the beat alone usually has that transformative feel in terms of like the whole time it felt like a very Southern album anyway. But when they're rapping, like you said it earlier with Southernplayalisticadillacmuzik, they are painting the image for you to actually understand exactly dimension for dimension what is going on right now. Like I can see this. I can see everything that they're singing about, rapping about, should I say. Like they paint these very, very vivid pictures with just words, and it's always so impressive. always so impressive. And there's an ability that, again, they had it their whole careers. Like, it never, like, I can't think of any project that they have now. Obviously, I haven't actually gone and listened to ATL Aliens. ATLians, my bad. I haven't gone to go listen to that one yet. But I'm sure that that ability will still be there. It was there in Stankonia, and it was there in Love Boat
Speak What's Love Below. It's there throughout their whole career, and it is crazy to think that they had that ability. And not on album one, because a lot of people have it on album one. Like Jay-Z has it on album one. But Jay-Z's album one is at 26 years old. Their album one is at 18.
Yeah, exactly.
In the South. With no real, with no real, like Jay-Z album one comes after years of Jay-Z rapping alongside Big L and Biggie in the background. Do you know what I mean? They were in the deep rural South.
Yep.
With each other. Goody Mob and Organizers. And they had just that ability to paint. And then throughout their career, they just accentuated it, whether it became Bombs Over Baghdad and the chaos that that song evokes with the beats and then the words that you can get transported, that type of stuff. So Miss Jackson, all of them. It's there. It is just a little bit mad to think that y'all were doing this on track one. Ain't no thing. Y'all were doing this.
Man.
Like when he said we're having a smoke out in the dungeon with the Mary Jane, like you are transported to the dungeon, transported to the weed going round in rotation
so
on a
quickly.
pass. It's so simple. And it's like, yeah, ain't no thing. This is easy for us. This is easy. This is easy. We're having a smoke. We're not bothered. We're having a smoke out in the dungeon with the Mary Jane. It's just the players, Mac Daddies. He's points.
Love it. I love it, man. I love it. Oof. Man.
Now we come to an all-important question. Got an A from Entertainment Weekly, 4 stars from Rolling Stone, or 4 out of 5 from Rolling Stone, should I say. 4 out of 4.5 mics from Source. I believe it has a XXL rating from XXL, but don't quote me on that because I can't verify it. What did the Two Stubborn Nigerians give it?
I had a tough time with this one because, and this is a weird one as well. That first week, obviously it's been 2 weeks since our last episode. That first week, I was pretty much just solely listening to Southern Playalistic Cadillac music. So I had, how can I put it? I was ready to come in last week if we recorded. I probably would have given it my stamp. As time went on, I got to the point where it was like, okay, I know the album now. I've listened to the album a lot. It's still an album that's in rotation because it's like the first thing I see when I open up my music app. But at the same time, going back, having that week where I've then gone back and listened to P3, where I've gone back and listened to 2000 a lot, and just other music in that time period, I think, I don't know if I can give it my full stamp. So I'm giving it serious album. Now, very serious album is still a very good ranking for this, I think, especially as a debut for 18-year-olds, especially with what they did, what they accomplished with it. The reason that I'm going with very serious album, I think, not the reason, sorry, but like, I think me being in 2022, my rating might have been different if I was listening to this at a different time in my life. Let's just say that. I don't know how, again, it would have varied if I carried on just solely listening to this and other music wasn't distracting me in the same time. But for now, for today, if I'm keeping true to myself and the rating that I'm willing to give out, I think it is a very serious album. And I think that's a very good accomplishment.
Yeah. For me, this has my stamp of approval. I think it's one of the greatest hip-hop albums of all time. I think it's one of the most important hip-hop albums of all time. And I think that resonates with me more and more every single time I listen to it. I think it resonates with me every single time I listen to the rest of their work, but more importantly, when I listen to Azara Shah, when I listen to Big Crit, when I listen to Rest in Peace, Pimp C, and Big Bun of UGK, when I listen to B.O.B., when I listen to the early years of T.I., like it just resonates with me whenever I hear those Rhapsody, whenever I hear artists from the South, from the deep South, and they've got that Southern bounce. They've got that Southern twang to it. I think it was Big Crit a few months ago that you were talking about, then you were like, I didn't even know this was Big Crit. It was Big Crit. The first time you listened to Black Superhero, and you said, I didn't even realize this was Big Crit. For a second, I was like, is this Andre 3000? Like, that happens every single time because they created a sound, an aura, a bounce, an aesthetic that still resonates through to today, when we haven't had an Outkast album since 2006. 2006. That's 16 years. We haven't had an Outkast album. Big Boy's obviously been dropping his albums still to great critical acclaim, many of them. Andre will give us a feature every now and again. We haven't had an Outkast album since 2006. And we may never get one again. We may never get one again. But what they did on April 26, 1994, set in motion a genre of hip-hop, a faction, a pocket of hip-hop, which I think still lasts to today and will continue to resonate for generations on and on. And I think that alone, let alone why I already think of the music, as I hope to have said over the past 30 minutes we've been talking about it. That alone means for me, it just has to get my stamp. So this has my personal stamp. Raheem obviously says this is a very, very good project. But go out, listen to it, cast your own views if you haven't listened to already. If you have listened to already, I already know you got your own views. Let us know what they are. We're not going to do anything with that information for real. But anyway, it's always good to hear that is Outkast, Southernplayalisticadillacmuzik.
Power to the people about to do maintenance. Thank you so much for watching that video. If you were feeling it, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Peace.